What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Morning Brew podcast. Today, I'm talking to my buddy Kai about her past experience in sex work. We are going to be debunking myths and stereotypes surrounding sex work and the porn industry. If you haven't figured out already, this episode is going to be covering topics that are 18 plus, so if you have any children or young ones around, I highly recommend you either ask them to leave or you put in some headphones. But without further ado, I hope you enjoy this week's episode. I found it very informative and really interesting, so I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Welcome to the podcast. First off, do you want to introduce yourself and then tell us a little bit about what you do / what you used to do?
So I don't want to disclose my legal name. Is it okay?
Yeah, that's
fair.
My
nickname? Okay, cool. I go by Kai True, on my social medias, but, Kai Kai Candy ties into, a lot of what I did online and whatnot with my sex work. So, I was started, I want to say in 2019, and I was doing everything between, selling photos, videos, sexting, the usual online stuff until about early 2023.
Cool. Okay. And then, just to clarify, so you never did any, in-person meeting up with people?
No, I never did any in-person meetings. I think the most that I did for, quote-unquote in-person kind of stuff was, I met up once or twice with a few people in, a public setting where they, in exchange, then, I was able to spend their money for meeting up with them, just giving them my time. And I remember going to the mall explicitly with this one older gentleman who I found him later on a sugar daddy site. But there was definitely, we were able to get massages, we stopped in dispensers, I got a few articles of clothing, stuff like that, just for being there, and that was kind of cool, but I only did that, once or twice.
Okay, cool. So what was your initial draw to sex work?
Easy money, and I know that sounds super shitty to say, but it was definitely the appeal of, I could just start making money off photos almost instantly, and that in itself was a very strong appeal.
Okay, and I know the answer to this, but is this the only work that you do?
No, I started off modeling, actually, and from the modeling it was very easy to kind of segue into the online, more risque adult photos, because it was funny, when I first started modeling, I wouldn't even do anything boudoir-wise. I wouldn't do anything in lingerie. The most I would do is maybe do a simulated unbuttoned the jeans kind of look. But when I first stepped in front of the camera, I wouldn't do anything like that. Start from there to go to sex working, where I was very explicit online. There's not much that I left to the imagination.
And I think if I recall correctly, you had said towards the beginning, correct me if I'm wrong, you were posting videos of just smoking and topless. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, that's actually how I started doing the sex work. I wasn't sure how deep the entire thing was going to go, but I started off with my own boundaries in place, where it was nothing below the belt, and I liked smoking pot, and I liked lounging around kind of naked, and it was started off at my OnlyFans was I was just jamming to some music and stuff like that, and I started promoting on my Snapchat, and I was just smoking, kind of doing just seductive little faces or whatnot, but I was just casually smoking and vibing with just my playlist on Snapchat, and then I was like, yo, if you want to see me topless, come to my OnlyFans, and that was how I pretty much started trying to segue from my modeling to my OnlyFans. I was just posting, I wasn't even posting my professional work, I was just smoking on my OnlyFans topless, making money. Because people want to see tits while I watch the hot girl smoke weed.
That sounds about right. So I'm not super familiar with how OnlyFans works. Is that something where people will request something and then you can do it for money? Or is it you'll post whatever and they can pay to just subscribe?
So, do you know what Patreon is and how that kind of works?
A little bit, yeah.
It's kind of similar to that, where it's a subscription-based site where you don't have to put porn or explicit images on the site. That just happens to be what draws it. was a very easy thing for women to do that just happened to be allowed. But there was like a lot of like OnlyFans before it was into like the heavy duty, like, yes, you can follow, you know, your neighborhood girls or whatnot. It was very much like you could find your favorite like instructors, like, I don't know, all sorts of little niches for private instructors, whether it was like instruments or like workout routines, and you would just pay the extra money to support that private instructor.
Right, okay.
But then, yeah, girls were exploiting it to make money off selling their body. It was like
I gotcha.
Yes, yes. And then you could go through all the hoops to legalize your age. So there was no limitations on what you could post. And I think once it got word out that it was as easy as that, like, that's when I think it started taking storm across like everywhere, and everyone was doing it.
Okay. And so these next questions you can only answer with as much as you're comfortable with disclosing. What is the most money you've made from one request, and what was the request?
Okay. So, I used to sell my photos in sets, so are we talking about like one lump sum off a full set I did, or from one specific person? Because I guess I could answer both sides of that.
I guess either, yeah.
Okay, so I guess like the most money I made off a set was like, the set it was I took a flavored popsicle and I fucked myself with it, and then after I came I ate the popsicle that I fucked myself with, and that right there probably was my biggest selling set. I made a crap ton of money off that, and I'm probably looking at least like $2,000 off that set. After everyone like came in, bought either the subscription to see it, or bought the extra money from the photos and stuff I took, or the extra long video, whatever it was, that brought in a lot, and was probably like, but I could recycle that material for like almost a month for all the new people that came in and haven't seen it. I could resell them that, and it wasn't something I'd repeatedly do. Whereas a single person, like a single transaction, I would probably say I sold a gentleman my lingerie, some stockings and whatnot, and if I remember correctly, I got like $200 off it.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and then like I did have another gentleman who was just very loyal to my modeling and stuff like that. He followed me from them too, and he probably spent the most on me, probably equating to about $1,000, maybe a little bit more, through his time sub to me.
Okay, and so with the popsicle thing, is that something that comes from like your creative imagination, or is that something that one of your followers had asked for?
So kind of both. Like one of my followers recently requested me to just do like an ice cube play. They just wanted me to take a video of me like rubbing an ice cube all over my body, you know, possible insertion with it and whatnot. And I was like, you know what, I bet I could amp this to the next level. And I got not the specific idea, and I won't go off like the rails too much. We can come back to this, but I was talking with one of my friends, and long story short, she was also in the industry, and she was like, she's like, you got to do something that stands out, do something weird, do something different. And I got the idea because I really like popsicles, and I like a sweet tooth. My name was Kai Kai Candy on the entire thing. I was like, you know what? I bet I could do some raunchy shit with this popsicle and probably make some good money. And I wasn't surprised that it was as popular as it was. I was just surprised that it wasn't, I don't know, like, I guess I wasn't surprised about, like, how popular it was. It was just kind of mind-boggling. I'm like, wow, a lot more people are into this than I thought, but I kind of figured a lot of people would be into this weird shit anyways, so.
That makes sense. So kind of along those lines, what is the most unique request that you have gotten in your line of work?
So if it was a request that was too out there or uncomfortable, or I felt like was just a little bit more towards like the person had traumatic issues kind of wise instead of like a kink or a fetish, I would save a lot of the documentation that it was something that they requested and stuff like that. That it was
Smart.
like, whether it was the messages of what they were explaining that they wanted, the payment of detail, me explaining of why I'm willing to do this much of the request, but not this much of the request. Like, and I would save a screenshot all that, so it was neutral. Like, that way, if my ass ever got handed through how weird it was, I had my ass covered. And it was a gentleman who wanted me to put on a strap-on, and he asked me to pretend to be his mother while trying to dominate him through the screen of an instructional video of how to tell him to jack off. And at that point, I did it, and I got decent money off of it. But it was definitely one of those moments where I was like, this is a little weird, and it had me relook on what I'm going and not going to do with my, like, boundaries and limitations.
Sure. You said, I think you also mentioned one where you were in a cage covered in peanut butter. Was that,
That was not me, but that was...
Oh, okay, someone else.
Point earlier. That one was a good one. I was talking with one of my good friends, and she's actually in the industry too, and she's incredibly successful. And I was just starting off, and I remember sitting in my apartment, and I was just like, dude, like, you're super successful at it. Like, what do you do? And she's like, honestly, you just kind of have to do, like, the unexpected. And that's where we kind of got in the topic of just do something that makes you stand out. And she literally sat there, and I remember this being burned into my memory, and she, love her to death, girl. You literally are my goals. Praise be to ya. But she was like, yeah, she's like, no one gave a fuck when I was masturbating on my counter on a Thursday night to climax 3 or 4 times. But she's like, all of a sudden I was incredibly popular and making hundreds of dollars when I smothered myself in peanut butter and locked myself in a dog kennel. And I was like, oh, we're talking like a whole other level of standout, babe. I gotcha. That's some crazy shit.
Yeah, so OnlyFans is kind of like, has its reputation for like feet pics and like selling bath water and stuff like that. Have you discovered any like kinks that you didn't know existed?
Everything can be a kink and a fetish. And that is something that I had no idea or concept of until I entered the industry. There is a kink for everything. The smallest things you can think of. Licking someone's eyeball. That's actually a sexualized thing. People go nuts for that.
I feel like I've seen that somewhere, and I was like, huh.
Yes!
Taste of cornea.
I was listening to a podcast. I can't remember the name of it. One of my friends showed me the episodes, and we were just kind of listening to it on the car ride there. And some bitch she had some dude fuck her and staple her tits to her legs. And she was into it, dude. She was like, I've never had the biggest orgasm. And I was like, this is some shit that I'm not into. I was like, you have fun with that.
How do you remove them?
I have no idea. I think I was just so hooked on the fact that is what came out of that her mouth that I didn't quite was mentally there for the recap on it.
This is one of those sex sent me to the ER kind of moments.
Kinda, yeah. And people go nuts for that shit. Like, it can be a kink for just shoving random shit inside yourself, as weird as that is, but that is also a kink.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people were watching Two Girls, One Cup back in the day, and I didn't think about it at the time, but I'm sure that's gotta be a kink for some people.
Oh, absolutely. I've heard stories. I've heard such wild stories. There was one time at one of my old places of employment, one of my coworkers had asked me and offered me like $300 to shit in a zippy bag and bring it to him. And I was like, excuse me? I don't think I'm that confident about what comes out of my asshole to be selling that.
In a zip.
And I'm not gonna lie, I thought about it, but I did not do it. That one I did not do.
That's gonna be one of the, think about it for a second.
I definitely did. I totally thought he was kidding. He was not kidding. He was very
open
and honest about it. He was dead serious. It was a topic we touched on for about a week straight.
Oh my gosh.
Like, what the fuck?
How does sex work affect your confidence and your sense of self in terms of body image?
So, that's a really good question, because I understand that a lot of women, it can be a very sensitive topic for them after they enter or leave sex work. And for me personally, like from a personal experience, I feel I've gained a lot of confidence from the experience in a whole, like as a whole with itself. I did not find myself societally attractive and very confident in my body or my physical looks. I would spend a lot of time getting ready to go out for even the most mundane things, or to just sit at home and take selfies, because I would be ashamed if the world saw me how lazy and like what I looked like without being put together. And my confidence was extremely low. My self-esteem was just not there. And I think, unfortunately, on like the less positive side of things, that probably is what pushed me into sex work. It was easy, and I really didn't have a second thought onto my self-esteem and how it was going to make me feel. So I think in a more realistic and kind of side of things, that was probably not helping me in the beginning, but going through the experience itself, realizing that I am sought out after in a way, no matter if I just woke up out of bed and not doing the stereotypical, oh, I got no makeup on and I got my eyebrows and shit done, those shit's not real. But going through that of just waking up and on my worst days of depression, getting up and having to make content and still getting the serotonin boost of I am wanted, even like this, I think got me through the initial wave of it. And while that's not probably the healthiest way to look at it, it's definitely helped power me up in ways of I am still worth something when I feel as if I'm not.
That definitely makes sense. I feel like when you're, at least in my opinion, when you're in like sexual positions or in the act of sexual intimacy of any kind, I feel like you're just very raw, because like quite literally people are like looking either in you or at parts of you that don't usually get seen. And so I feel like to put truly all of yourself out there and have people still like wanting you and putting a bunch of comments out there like, you're so pretty, you're so hot, I love that, like, definitely that's gotta feel some kind of cool boost for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a short-term high. Like, I think long-term wise, like, it's the realization that, like I said, everyone wants everything at that point. Like, it's just, they're just sexualizing you. But in the time being where you're looking for, like, any sort of almost like reassurance or reaffirmance outside of yourself that you are attractive, it is definitely something that is there. Long-term wise, like, I look back at it almost in the same way, but in a different light, where I feel good about myself for have done that and have had that experience, because looking back, it's like, damn, I really put it all out there. Like, no regrets. I was just doing some wild ass shit for the money, and I can look back and be like, well, I did it. I had the confidence to do it. I can look back and say, well, I didn't miss out on the opportunity.
Well, if I could fuck a popsicle, I could do anything now.
Exactly. Sure, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Has sex work changed the way that you view sex at all in your personal life?
A little bit, yes and no. For me, I think because it wasn't ever like a physical meetup kind of thing where I was sexually gratifying anyone in person or anything like that. I think a lot of it was still able to be held in a personal, intimate level. I think because I didn't do a lot of the stuff where, like, a lot of the guys will hit you up out of nowhere and be like, yo, you want to collab for that OnlyFans content? It's so cringy. It's so bad. No,
oh, no.
I want to collab with you on that OnlyFans content. But it's, where were we at? What was the question again?
Has it changed the way that you view sex in your personal life?
That's right. Okay. No, because I didn't do any, like, meetups or sexual gratification in person. I think a lot of that was still able to be held personal and intimate to myself when it came to my partner. So I don't think it really affected a lot. If anything, I became a lot more knowledgeable on sex, you know, having the experience with a lot of the weird stuff that people may be into that may not be so weird anymore. And whatnot, I think has helped at least thrive my partner's life in the bedroom. And I find myself being open-minded to try new things for my experience in the bedroom. But otherwise, I don't think it's really affected too much of it. But that's again just speaking on the fact that I kept most of it online. I'm not sure how that would affect those who have met up in person and did personal meetups with their clients.
That's true. How do you go about mentioning this to a potential partner in your experience?
I always knew off the bat that, like, most partners aren't very reciprocative of OnlyFans in itself. They're not entirely welcoming of it. So I was always just kind of, like, really upfront about it after first date or two, or while we're just kind of casually talking on the first date. I'd be like, all right, well, fun fact, I have a page, an adult page. I do adult things in my free time, but I make a lot of money, so this date's on me if that's cool. And most of the time, like, sure, they'd get pissed, but they wouldn't turn on the free food or drinks, and they'd at least hear me out. You know, you definitely walk into the few people that are just like, oh my god, you're a whore, you're a homewrecker, and that's fine, move along. Like, I'll do my thing, you do you. You're just pissed that your husband's the one that buys my fucking nudes.
For real.
But I think overall, like, it's not like I really caught anyone kind of off guard. You know, even when I was doing it, I was in a relationship at the time, and I was very upfront and be like, hey, I think I want to do this and make some side money. Like, how do you feel about it? And the guy I was with at the time was like, I don't really care. Have fun. I was like, cool. Say less.
Another thing that we're here to do is to bust some myths and stereotypes surrounding sex work. So I have collected some statements from the internet that are really just true or false statements, but definitely feel free to weigh in on opinions, because that's what we're here for. So statement number 1, sex work is work. True or false?
True.
100%
will say true.
Perfect.
Some of the shit that I'd be doing is nuts and more work than my day job would ever put me through.
Okay, agree. Sex workers are sluts or whores?
That is a false statement. 100%. Some of the most open-minded and, like, accepting individuals are some of the most successful sex workers.
Sex workers just want attention.
False. I did it for the money. I didn't think I was gonna actually do as well as I did, but the money was nice.
Yeah, I feel like I would rather have money than attention, to be honest.
Yeah, honestly, man, just stay anonymous and just rake them for their wallets, babe. Like,
no, for real, if ever there's, like, a gross dude or someone in my life, I'm like, I will drain you for all of your money and then bounce. But
yeah, absolutely.
You know. Okay. Sex workers are criminals or sexual deviants?
No. That is the most outrageous statement I've ever heard.
I was reading some of these online, and I'm like, do people actually believe this?
I think, like, not to be, like, too honest or anything, I think most sex workers are honestly victims of sexual assault or something of that nature. Like, completely opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah,
like,
I think totally.
People can hurt people, but oh my goodness. That's a bit extreme.
I know. Okay, this one really caught me off guard because I have never heard this before, but sex workers are stupid.
I mean, I don't have no college degree, but I don't think I'm stupid. I do well for myself. I guess, like, I don't know, because I used to get the comment a lot, they're like, oh, you chose the easy way out, and I'm like, well, no, I don't. You weren't smart enough to think of it, were you?
Yeah, that one, I was like, what do you mean? Like, they probably have more street smarts than I do.
Yeah, like, safety-wise, I'm pretty sure I know way more about meeting up with people and how to deal with strangers safely than I think most people do because of the weird shit I've dealt with online.
Yeah, no, my reaction is run or cry, so
yeah,
it's not very helpful. Okay. It is hard for sex workers to find meaningful relationships or dates in real life.
That one I'd probably go with true. I think, touching on the question we've had earlier and stuff like that, like, while being upfront with it can definitely help with a lot of issues later down the road, it prevents against that. I find myself, like, getting fetishized a lot. Like, a lot of dudes are just here for it to have that porn star girlfriend, or they're immediately given the ick, and they don't want any part of us, because they think, as stated before, they think we're whores and trashy human beings and out for the attention and whatnot. It's not the reality of the situation. It's very much like we're just people. We're working. We do what's in our capabilities to make ends meet, and this is something in our capabilities. It's no different than people streaming or doing YouTube videos online.
Sure.
You have internet and a device at home. So do we.
Right. I feel like you almost never get the full picture, you're only quite literally just getting the climax and then nothing else.
Right, like, it takes a lot of time to set up and do the work that we do. Like, a lot of us, put that time and energy into how we look and stuff like that. Because, well, yes, you can wake up, roll out of bed, and make some content. You're going to make more money the more time and effort you put into it, and the more you, quote-unquote, are putting into your orgasm, or your climax, or your show, whatever you're offering the clientele that's purchasing. It's the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. And it is something that the sex work market is a constant demand. You have to be in people's faces, so it's not like you can do it once a week and stay on top. You have to constantly be doing it 3, 4, 5 times a day to make sure you're constantly there, because the sex sells constantly, and people are always looking for the next new, big, best thing, especially in the sex industry.
Yeah, and in terms of getting out of it what you put into it, like, lingerie is not cheap. Like, good quality makeup? Lingerie, not cheap.
Yeah, good quality lingerie and makeup, my lashes, the ring light.
Cost me an arm and a leg.
That in itself, outrageous. The time and energy to edit the, videos and the content I put out, also stupidly outrageous.
Why am I paying more money for less fabric is the real question that I have.
Honestly.
But, that's a question for the CEO of Victoria's Secret, so that's not my business. So I actually didn't know that editing goes into that kind of stuff, which seems stupid because I feel like obviously it should. But, okay, so what kind of stuff goes into making content for you?
So, my typical content time, I obviously work my day job as a bartender. Well, my day job, but with the way my schedule lined up, I would wake up probably around, 12 or 1. Hang on, Gates would like to pause to do some mic settings, if that's okay. I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Yeah, tell me about your setup for when you're making content, because I was unaware. Do you have, multiple, camera angles? Do you use microphones? What all goes into that?
So when I first started making content, it was as easy as just using my phone. I would just take a quick 5-10 minute almost reels kind of thing, and then just uploaded the nude ones to my OnlyFans, because OnlyFans uploading at the time took fucking ages. I don't know if it still does or anymore, but if it does, get that shit fixed, OnlyFans. Fuck. But no, so I started off with just my phone and a tripod. I invested in a ring light. I invested in a nice background. I invested in quite a few more bits of lingerie. I set up my Amazon wish list, so a lot of my followers and subbers could buy my lingerie, and if they bought it, I had to make sure to do a content set of whatever they requested in that lingerie that they sent me. So if it was just something quick of just playing with myself until climax, that was something super easy. And it usually involved of 2 or 3 photo sets. So I had to sit there and look pretty with the photo set and lingerie or whatever they sent me itself, and then turn around and then send a 30-second video of the climax or whatnot. And you would be surprised. Most of the time, shit, you're just not in front of the camera. But there's definitely times that the technical issues go wrong. The camera falls. You don't look flattering, which happens more often than you like to admit, and that means, it's not the worst job in the world to masturbate again, but it does mean having to reset your station and go again. But I usually, ring light. I didn't have a microphone. I just turned on the sensitivity of my phone after I got invested in my laptop, because I wanted to do webcamming for a second there and do the online streaming from OnlyFans. And from that point, I had my phone going, kind of like Twitch streaming, I guess I would say. You have your phone running your analytics, and then you got your actual desktop or your laptop with your stream, so you can see what you're doing with your OnlyFans or whatnot in the background, so you can control it and whatnot. Very similar to Twitch, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. Do you ever, I feel like I'll have moments where you're doing something and then you kind of realize where you are and then I get embarrassed. Do you ever catch yourself in the viewfinder and make direct eye contact with yourself and then laugh or something? Because I don't know, I feel like I do that a lot.
Yes, there's been a few times, especially afterwards, that post-nut clarity where you watch the content you just made, and then you're what am I doing with my life? How did it get to this point?
Exactly.
Yes, no, that's definitely happened once or twice. You finally get the filming done, and you sit there and you rewatch it.
Right, exactly. Then you have to look at it again.
and you're just like, oh, okay. It's what I don't know how I got here, but this is what we're doing, I guess. It's very much like, I wonder what went wrong in my life to get me here.
Oh my God. Do you leave it all like all natural, or do you like throw some like acting into there a little bit?
A little bit of both. I myself am very wide range with my taste in my kinks and my fetishes and whatnot, and I definitely like, what is this word? I don't know the word, but like I appeal to a very large audience because I do everything from like BDSM to food play to like little play and stuff like that. And with that, like, I can't really say I specialize in anything. All of it was pretty natural for myself. There were definitely aspects that I definitely emphasized and heightened for the monetary value and for the engagement from my followers and stuff like that. But most of it genuinely was pretty natural to me and whatnot. I was also just very comfortable in front of the camera, so I really didn't have to like emphasize a lot. I do know that when it came to making content like out of other females and whatnot, I think a lot of it was just the nerves of working with another woman. The gay panic set in.
I feel that.
So when the gay panic set in, that was a little bit more towards the acting aspect, and it wasn't because they were performing poorly or I was performing poorly. It was just the gay panic.
Super fair. Totally understand. Yeah, that was going to be my next question is, do you also do work with other people? And then how do you, not how do you do that, but like what kind of measures are put in place so that you're both comfortable in front of the camera and knowing that it's good for both of you?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. With me personally, like I make content with a few of my friends and stuff like that, and I make sure that I'm making content like, this might sound weird, but I make sure I'm making content with people I trust. Like, they're usually people within my friend groups that are also in the industry and stuff together. Like, they kind of have their own pages, their own adult websites that they're kind of managing and have their own vibe they're going for, as I do. And it kind of came off as like, hey, like, we're both kind of in it for the money aspect, and we're both kind of into chicks. Like, how does that sound? And the way we usually go about it is, like, normally with anyone I've collabed with, we provide like clean test results and stuff like that before collabing to make sure, you know, we're both been clean and stuff like that, especially if you've been collaborating with other people in the past. I've collaborated with many women. I did not really collaborate with a lot of men just out of preference. I kind of stuck it to more towards the female.
I get that.
Yes. And once we were both like cleared, both like records came back clean and stuff like that, we'd have an in-depth conversation of specific things that we wanted to capture for my page and her page, what angles or if there's anything that any of our clients have requested and stuff like that. We would talk in detail about what specifically we need to capture for that. And we would do a lot of promotion for each other, be like, hey, I'm going to be collabing with so-and-so, they're going to be collaborating with me. And we always do open communication during like the event itself. It's never, you know, setting romantic candles and going to fucking town on each other. It's usually like, hey, how about we start with like a little bit of oral? After that, we can kind of segue into some toy play. And it's like, okay, sound good to you, sound good to you. And we do a lot of check-ins in between of, hey, how are you feeling about this? You doing pretty good? Yeah? Feeling okay? Awesome, me too. Let's continue kind of thing. And it's just a lot of open communication, and we make sure that we're both on the same page about it. I think without that communication, it becomes a lot harder, and the blurred lines become a lot more of an issue.
Sure. I don't want to play into a stereotype too much here, but I feel like a lot of the times lesbian content gets very much fetishized, almost even more so than regular content. Do you find that stuff sells more?
It does, yes.
Okay,
it very much does. When my popsicle content is definitely like my top selling content, like I sold the most and that made me the most money, but like consistently putting out my girl on girl content or my lesbian content, that was a consistent draw of a good amount of money each time, like at least like $400 each time.
Girl on girl flies off the shelf is what I kind of figured.
Unless I'm doing something nuts, it was girl on girl that everyone wanted. And it's an easy way to make some money. It was pretty fun, but like, Jesus Christ. It blows my mind.
I feel like if I really wanted to play into what the stereotype is for like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of guys, their stereotype is like Asian, big boobs, girl on girl. And I was like, listen, I can check all 3 of those, but I'm way too self-conscious to do any of that. But
making some money, honey.
Back of my mind, if I ever needed to, I would consider. Okay, so we also did a Q&A where we were just asking your followers, my followers, for any questions. So I've got a few here, and I think I'll just leave them anonymous if that's cool with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So somebody asked, does personal sex ever feel like work or business since you were doing it for work previously?
That is a great question. Yes, actually, there was a point in time in my life that I was so focused on my work, even though I was very heavily connected and drawn to someone, I wasn't the most into our personal sex life because it was just work. It was just constant work. At that point, I think when you've done something like sex work and whatnot, this physical intimacy is nice and it's something that you would like in your relationship, but I think it really comes down to the intimate value of it too. You know, you're just really looking for someone to ease the stress without having to do it physically, since all you do work is physical work.
Definitely. That makes sense. Somebody else was asking, and you kind of touched on it a little bit. How do you stay safe physically in terms of STDs, STIs, and in terms of birth control, if that's something that plays into it?
Yeah, normally especially if you're collaborating with someone of the opposite sex, and, you know, pregnancy is always a risk or factor you have to take into account. It's always very adamant, you know, make sure you have the knowledge that your partner's on birth control, you know, get proof if necessary, you know, make sure you guys are using protection, do everything in your power, and trust that your partner's doing everything in their power to prevent against possible pregnancy and STDs and STI contractions. You know, I think with that, it really comes down to, like, also make contact with someone you trust. Don't just pick up someone off the street and be like, yo, let's go make a movie. You know, keep it to people you trust.
Yeah, totally. Do people, when they're making content that's male and female, do they usually use, like, contraception, or is that something that is kind of a turnoff for people?
What I found actually with OnlyFans is, like, a lot of more of what would be, like, the porn taboos, like wearing a condom. You don't really see a lot of it on Pornhub or XXX videos, but more mainstream on OnlyFans, and OnlyFans is becoming a lot more accessible. But, like, that is a lot more common on OnlyFans, of seeing stuff like condoms and whatnot being used.
Oh, okay.
In the event of practicing safe, you know, sex and safe and consensual sex. I do know that it could go both ways. A lot of my female friends who are still active in the industry have found someone that they settle down with who is comfortable making content with them. And then I have female friends who do just actively make content with male partners, multiple male partners. In that aspect, you know, they do use STD protection and pregnancy protection.
Nice. That's kind of surprising, but in, like, a pleasant way. Like, I'm pleasantly surprised to hear that. Okay. What advice would you give to people that you care about when it comes to this line of work? So, like, the example I was given was, if you have a daughter and the daughter's like, hey, Mom, I'm thinking about going into some form of sex work. What kind of advice would you give to them?
Make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. That is, like, the biggest thing I can say. Like, I will fully admit I did not do it for the right reasons. I was looking for almost like a get-rich-quick scheme. I can look back and recognize that, though, and that I turned it into the right reasons while I still had the chance to. That would be, like, my biggest question that I would sit down and talk to her about. If it's because of a self-esteem, confidence issue, and that she's broke and needs some money, that would be something I'd much rather talk to her about. If it's something that she's, you know, genuinely a sexual character and she wants a way to express herself and she's confident in her body and thinks that she could genuinely benefit from something like this, or gain a better idea of her sexual nature and a better idea of what she may like, then I think that would be a step that she should take. And as long as it's at her discretion, her boundaries and safety are enforced, that would be something I'd support. Like, it's not something I'd ever push on my kid. Like, I don't want to see my kid be like, yeah, my kid's a porn star, congratulations. Like, It's not something I'd ever flash around, but, like, I'd be very hypocritical if I looked down on my kid and was like, yeah, well, you're a piece of shit for doing this, and your mom did the same damn thing.
Right. Okay. This one, I'm not sure how well we might be able to answer this because neither of us are a married man. But the question is, why do married men think that sex needs to be like it is in porn?
I think that's... Hang on, I gotta repeat the question because I made eye contact with Gates. I'm sorry. What do you mean? So important. Okay. I don't think it's that married men think sex isn't important. I think married men are just stuck in the mindset and crave that factor of sex that you really only find on what would be on Pornhub and XXX videos and stuff like that. Some of that more spontaneous, rough, kind of sex. Not usually the typical sex that you find in your safe, healthy, everyday relationships. Like the routine marital sex.
Right.
I think, being completely honest, again, that's a negative light of the porn industry, is that people get a little delusional about the reality and stuff of what is expected from a healthy sex life and what is actually just porn and acting.
So maybe they're, like, stuck in the ideal, like a Prince Charming kind of scenario.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. And they put those expectations on their partners and wives when it's not their place to be putting those expectations.
I gotcha. Yeah, no, I'm guilty of doing the same thing because I'll watch, like, one TV show and I'm like, why is every man not Pedro Pascal? I'm so offended.
Well, I understand that, too.
Okay. So this is Gates' question, and since he's present, he can please correct me if I'm phrasing this wrong. Do you feel we are truly empowering women, or do you think in the long term we're more taking advantage of them and leading to corruption?
I think that's a great question, and I told him that. I think that basic, like, breaking it down is kind of the same thing. Like, keeping sex work taboo is going to make more people shameful or ashamed that they do it or know someone that does it. Whereas, like, if you tell, like, a kid, don't lie to me, or, like, don't lie to me, and you tell them don't sneak out and da-da-da, and you super fucking harsh on them, they're going to sneak out the first option they can and go do whatever it is that you told them not to do. And I think that's going to happen ultimately the same. If we shame and make sex work taboo, I think a lot more women are going to be a lot more ashamed about the fact that they did it, when in reality there's not a lot to be ashamed about. As long as you were safe, you did it under the right pretenses and did it for yourself, like, there's nothing wrong with it in the long run. You're not hurting others, as long as you're not hurting yourself with it, And I think keeping it as a taboo or as a wrongdoing, I think, puts us back in the fact that women should feel empowered. I think in that aspect it almost sexualizes us more because it's wrongful to be looked at that way.
Like forbidden fruit, almost.
Yes. Being wronged at to look at that way versus being like, hey, like, this actually empowers me and I feel good about looking this way for myself, not for a partner.
Gotcha. So what would, in your opinion, what is one of the most common misconceptions about sex work and or the porn industry?
Well, I think the biggest one is a lot of people that think sex workers and stuff like that are, a lot of us, we get the assumption of sex addictions around us, that we're like sex addicts and we'll fuck anything that moves and we'll record anything that we're fucking, and it's a wild and savage, lawless land to be in, and that's not the case. We're all about consensual and happiness, like big peace, love, unity hippies. Like, we just want to make sure you feel good. We feel good. Everyone's feeling good. Let us do our thing. Like, you're enjoying watching. That's no fucking creepy. You're like...
Exactly. You can't judge them for making the content that you're watching.
That's really what it comes down to. If you're one that watches porn, you can't be upset when you see someone you know doing porn.
This is
obviously poking your nose into people. Exactly. You obviously poked your nose into people having sex. What did you think was going to happen? Like...
It's like that meme of the guy that's like, that is so disgusting. Where can I find it?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, let me know if you don't want to talk about this part, but you presently are no longer doing that work. Is that still correct?
That is correct. I am no longer actively making content or doing anything with sex work.
Okay. Do you feel comfortable talking about, like, why you made that choice? And a follow-up question was, do you miss it?
That's actually, I feel like that probably helps answer, like, the question we answered in the past about, like, finding relationships and stuff like that.
Okay.
Ultimately, that's what it came down to, is I found a good relationship, you know? I entered the relationship. He knew off the bat what I did and what my job entailed, and he really did his best to be supportive of it. It pretty much came down to the fact that it just really was something that he couldn't look past. He 100% was trying so hard to be super supportive of it, but it just was super bothersome to him, and with his job and whatnot, we really didn't want it tying back to his work, and he just wasn't as open about it as I was. And at that point in time, I took a good look at how much I was making and how happy the sex work did make me happy. It supplied quite a bit to my lifestyle. I could afford to get my nails done, my rent was paid, my bills were paid, I had extra money to blow and whatever the hell I wanted. Random shit would be coming in my Amazon wish list all the time. I didn't know these people. I just had free shit coming that I just added to my Amazon wish list, and 2 weeks later it was a gamble on whether or not I got it. That shit's
nice.
Cool. You want to know something humbling? I had to learn how bills worked again after which trying to wrap my head around my internet not working. It's because I didn't pay it. It's because someone else is paying it for the past, like,
oh my god,
fucking year, dude. Same with all my subscription services. I don't pay for my
You're like, where's my
premium.
Netflix?
Dude, I was like, I have to pay for this shit? That's right. God damn. Learning to adult all over again. But ultimately, like, it came down to the fact that he made me happier. Like, this was something I was willing to give up as long as the relationship continued to thrive and be a satisfying experience in my life. And that's exactly what it's continued to be. So he's fulfilled a lot of the aspects of me that I did used to use OnlyFans for that I no longer need. I think a lot of it, I do like the aspect of being online and being engaged with a bunch of people at a time and whatnot for the profit. Like, the money was nice. I'm not gonna lie. It was if you can be successful in that shit, you make a good amount of money. I'm not gonna lie. That's some shit I miss. But ultimately, the experience I'm having with him is worth quite a bit more, and he was very respectful about bringing it up with me and everything. That I think the least I can do is respect his wishes on it. And so after we talked about it for a while, the page came down, and I have not resumed it since.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I think that's super cool, and probably a side of it that a lot of people don't really get to hear about, so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay. So those were all the questions that I had. Do you have any closing statements, anything like socials that you would like to plug, anything last minute comments at all?
Hell yeah, you're gonna let me plug my socials. What a team, man. Let me drop that. I model. Check out that shit. It's spicy. I can't sell any uncensored images, but that shit is good, finger licking good shit. Sky True Modeling. I'll send my socials and shit over. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that, but we're doing it.
Sweet. I'll put them in the bio or
I appreciate
something.
You. Most awkward and painful response to any of the questions I've had.
No, they're all good. Okay, any closing comments?
Did not think about that. Be safe. If it's something you're looking to do, make sure you're in the right mindset. Make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, and be safe about it. Like, definitely do your research, all about how to be safe, how you're going to go about it, keep your boundaries set in place. There's nothing wrong with change. Just go with the flow with it. Don't force anything.
And don't knock popsicles till you try them.
Yeah, man, that shit was a good time. 10 out of 10. Want a sensation? Fuck yourself with a popsicle. That'll taste great afterwards, too.
I gotta ask, what kind of popsicle was it?
It was like, they're like the Meyer brand, just like regular popsicles in like the like white plastic.
Okay, I'm familiar.
Pop out, and they're like grape, orange, strawberry.
Those ones, yep.
And they sometimes have jokes on the like sticks.
That would have been hella funny if you, like, asked a joke and then you did it, and then when it was all melted, you, like, read the answer.
I'll do that for a part 2 if I ever go back to the content making industry.
Charge them extra money for the joke.
Exactly. See, you got it. You gotta upcharge them. That's how you make the money.
Oh my god. Okay, well, thanks so much for joining, Kai. I feel like this has been very informative and really interesting for sure.
Oh, hell yeah, I appreciate being on. This was super awesome. I'm glad I got to be a part of this. This is a first time experience for me.
Yeah, of course. So, okay, I will plug your socials in the bio, and that's all I got.
Hell yeah! Thanks again.
We did it! Yay!
Yeah, we did it!
That's all for today's episode, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to go and follow Kai on socials and let me know in the comments if you learned anything from today's episode. I know I did. As always, share this podcast with a friend, leave a like, and be sure to tune in next week because I'm going to be interviewing my new friend Mango about what it's like being on the cover of a Struts album, as well as some of her new solo projects coming up. I'll see you then.